Good evening and welcome to a very special edition of Access to Democracy, the award-winning local access TV program now in its 24th year. As a public service, Access has hosted candidate forums on many occasions, and we're pleased to feature another one tonight. So thank you for joining us. I'm the moderator, Bill Raker, a contributing host on the regular Access to Democracy program. Our panel this evening is three of the four announced DFL candidates, Jay Miller, Bianca Virnig, and Cynthia Callais, all running for Minnesota House District 52B. A fourth announced DFL candidate, Chris Whitfield, was invited but was unavailable for the forum. The 52B seat is open as a result of the recent resignation of Representative Ruth Richardson. A special election has been set for December 5th to fill that vacant seat. This evening, Monday, October 30th, 2023, we are conducting a DFL candidate forum in our EAGAN TV studios in the Thomson Reuters headquarters. We want to acknowledge and thank the management and staff of EAGAN TV for their support in making this production possible. This session is being recorded and will be made available on several broadcast dates prior to the November 16th primary. The recording of this forum will also be available for viewing on the website accesstodemocracy.com and on YouTube, and it will be broadcast on EAGAN TV on the following dates: November 2nd at 7 p.m., November 7th at 10 a.m., November 10th at 8 p.m. There is no public audience present in the studio. Our timekeeper, who will ensure we adhere to the timing rules, is Alan Miller, producer emeritus of Access to Democracy, and Alan is also the producer of this event. The timekeeper will give a warning of 15 seconds remaining on each time block, so please be mindful of the notice. If your response runs over, I'll call time and move on to the next candidate or next question. The format explained to participants in advance will be as follows. Each participant will be introduced and give them 2 minutes to present themselves and to explain why they have become a candidate and what they see as the major issues facing the legislature in the upcoming session. Then there will be a series of identical questions presented to each participant, which they will each have 1 minute to answer. With each new question, I'll rotate the order of who answers first. In the wrap-up, there will be a 2-minute per candidate conclusion period in reverse order from the original introductions. As we want to be somewhat informal, candidates may remain seated for their responses, and I'll refer to the candidates with first names. So let's get started with the introductory statements. We'll begin with Bianca, then Cynthia, and then Jay. So Bianca, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Bianca Virnig, and I'm a mother, an advocate, a wife. I live in EAGAN, and I have about 2 decades worth of experience in state and local government. I was elected to serve on the 196 school board in 2021, and I ran against 3 extreme right candidates. I serve on the Budget Advisory Council, the Special Ed Advisory Council, the Community Ed Advisory Council, and the Wellness Committee. I also serve on the Deerwood Elementary PTO, and I'm the Director of Health and Safety at an Educational Services Cooperative, where I co-lead an Ed Policy Fellowship, and I oversee a workforce grant that's geared towards school nurses and mental health providers. I'm a Humphrey Policy Fellow alumni of 2022-2023, and we work to pass legislation so schools could bill for students receiving social work services that are on IEPs. I was also the regional COVID coordinator during the pandemic and was awarded the Dakota County Public Health Achievement Award in 2021 for my work, and have been recognized by the Minnesota School Social Workers Association. As far as the biggest challenges facing the district, I think some of those are around fully funding education, as well as affordable childcare and housing. And a more immediate need right now facing a big portion of the district, the EAGAN, Rosemont, or the EAGAN, that affects the EAGAN, Rosemont, Apple Valley School District, is the Moms for Liberty candidates running against the school board. So that is a real immediate need, emergent need right now, is to address those concerns. But collectively, fully funding school education has been something I've been working on really hard for since 2016, 2017, and I can get into that more later. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Bianca. Cynthia.
Well, I want to thank you, Alan and Bill, for taking the time to hold this forum tonight. My name is Cynthia Callais. I grew up in the South Metro in our foster care system. I have seen the barriers firsthand that the government can place on people inadvertently. I've also seen the ways in which government can lift others up. This is an experience that I have taken with me and used to inspire my work. I currently work at a nonprofit aiming to improve supports and services for individuals with disabilities. And I also am a current board member of Pro-Choice Minnesota. My work has really been striving to create a more equitable Minnesota. This last legislative session, we had a number of large wins, and I know that there's still a lot of work to do. We are just one bad election away from all of the work being stripped away on reproductive rights. And it's over time that we fully fund education and support our students and teachers from the pre-K level to college. We also need to elect bold leaders who are ready to attack and address the climate crisis here in Minnesota by holding polluters accountable. We're also headed into a bonding year, and we need a leader who is ready to deliver a robust bonding bill for our district, from the well water issue in Mendota to fixing our roads and our bridges in our community. I'm excited to be here tonight and share a little bit more about my platform and the issues facing our community.
Thank you, Cynthia. Let's go to Jay.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening. My name is Jay Miller, and I'm also a candidate for the DFL seat here in 52B. Born and raised in Mendota Heights, I've spent my entire life living and serving this community. I'm a 24-year veteran, a special education teacher at Two Rivers High School, where I also coach on the girls varsity soccer team and the boys and girls varsity track and field team. In addition to that, I'm a 15-year veteran of the Mendota Heights Fire Department. In the last 7 years, I've been serving in a leadership role as captain on the fire department. And in addition to that, I'm a 2-term city council member for the city of Mendota Heights. In my time, I have worked with and worked for every conceivable person with every conceivable diverse background and perspective that you can imagine. And in that time, I've gotten to know the people in these communities, and I feel I have a good sense of what's important. And in talking with people that I have talked to the last several weeks through this election campaign, a few trends are emerging. The first trend is people want to see health care made affordable and expanded, and that includes rights for women's health care and keeping politicians out of the doctor's office. Additionally, people that I'm speaking with want to fully fund early child care and early childhood education to make sure that we are leveling the playing field for children all over the state of Minnesota. And finally, there are people that are very concerned, and I am one of them, about the threats to democracy. And we are seeing people right now testing the perimeters, starting with the school board. And this is a real threat. This is something that I didn't think we were ever going to see in the metro area, but this is something I'm looking forward to addressing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Now we've had an opportunity to meet our 3 panelists this evening, so thank you very much. So let's get to the questions. And I'll rotate in order, as I said in the introduction. So I'll start with Jay with the first on this question, and then we'll go to Bianca and then Cynthia. Here's the question. Considering the outcomes of the most recent legislative session, what, in your opinion, did they get right and what did they get wrong? Jay, we'll start with you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so what I think they got right in principle is a 1% metro sales tax. I think that was a very good starting point. For those of you that don't know, the metro sales tax is dedicated to 2 things: looking to improve dollars dedicated to investing in affordable housing and metro transit, both of which we have a dearth of here in the South Metro. I believe they've got it right It'll be curious to see if we've gone far enough with that 1% Metro sales tax. I would like to see that play out for a year and see if we need to invest more dollars in it. But I like that, and I thought that was a good start. Where I think we could have done better was in the early childhood education. I think we do need to fund that because, as I said at the outset, we need to level the playing field for children right out of the gates. That's a good investment in Minnesota's future. Thank you.
Bianca.
Yeah, so I think they got a lot right with respect to education. There are so many things that came through from single-user gender-neutral bathrooms to the READ Act. I think the READ Act is hopefully will be a game changer. I agree with Jay, the sales tax, the child care, I also agree is an area that could have seen improvements. I think one of the things that they didn't get right is the infrastructure to support the changes that were made. So when you look at the robust work that was done, the state agencies and the people that are charged with helping whether it's schools or whomever, aren't quite prepared or ready yet. So there's a lot of questions that are still out there, and being able to follow up with what the changes have been is where I think they could have improved more.
Cynthia.
Yes, I'm also really excited to see the outcomes of this last legislative session. Something really important that passed was, and overdue, was a ban on conversion therapy for LGBTQ individuals in our communities. We also passed nation-leading paid family and medical leave. We also codified the right to have an abortion and seek medical care, and we are a beacon of light in the Midwest for that. I think the work ahead is exciting work. It's work that I have been committed to, and that's really investing more in our human services system. From early childhood to those who seek medical assistance, we need to be doing more to ensure that people who need care are getting high quality and affordable care in our communities.
Thank you. Let's go to the second question. We'll start with Cynthia and then Jay and then Bianca. And the question is this. What do you think voters want or expect from their representative? Cynthia?
Yeah, this is something that's really personal to me. I believe that voters want somebody who is accessible, who listens to their concerns. Whether or not you are a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, we are all running to represent the majority of our community. We are running to represent everybody in our community. And that work means bringing everybody to the table. We have to do everything we can to amplify the voices in our community, regardless of partisanship. And they want somebody that they know and can trust to lead on big issues and deliver for their community.
Thank you. Jay?
Thank you. I think everybody, regardless of what side of the aisle you fall on, wants to know when they pick up the phone and have a concern or want to talk about an issue that someone's going to answer. And when that person answers, that they're actually going to listen and take them to heart. Additionally, I think they want somebody that's honest, has integrity, and is going to stand up for the things that they believe in, not just put their finger up and see which way the wind blows. Finally, I think they want a steady hand and a calm voice, because we are living in uncertain times right now, and having a steady hand at the wheel is more important now than ever.
Thank you, Jay. And Bianca?
Yeah, I think the voters here, at least from what I've been hearing on the doors and in my engagement with them, is really bringing it back to the district itself. Somebody who's here, who's showing up, who understands the shared values and the challenges that we face. I've been here doing work with vaccine clinics, with school board, levy work, somebody who is willing to listen and talk to people across the aisle, work across the party lines, and really who can get things done for the district on behalf of the district. And not just the district, but looking at county and the impact on the state as well.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the next question, and We'll start with Jay on that one. What gives you the confidence that you can be an influential and effective voice for 52B?
That's a great question, thank you. In a word, experience. As I mentioned at the outset, I've dedicated my entire professional life to serving this community in a variety of capacities. I've taught and coached your children in the classroom and on the playgrounds. I've helped your families and saved you from fires and other emergency hazards. And I've helped create policy for the community through good governance in my time as a two-term city council member. These experiences have given me a unique perspective into our communities, and I've talked with so many different people from so many different diverse backgrounds that I feel that I have the good listening skills and the understanding of what this community wants and where it wants to go. And that has provided me the opportunity and the skill set moving forward to be successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bianca.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of state service. So I've worked at the state level with the Department of Labor and Industry, and then I went to Hennepin County and spent quite a bit of time there working with human services and public health. I've done a lot of COVID work. We've done mass drives, the school board. I've been involved with the PTO. We stood up the PTO. We went from a booster club to that. I am the celebrity duck in the YMC fundraiser duck race. So, you know, for me, I think a lot of it has been just my active involvement with the community, the people, and that when you hear from people saying, hey, would you run for this? This wasn't what I was seeking. Would you consider going out? Would you consider taking the work you've done to that next level? That gives you a bit of confidence that, you know, is appreciated.
Thank you, Bianca. And Cynthia.
Yes. Well, this is called a special election for a good reason, and the reality is the next legislator for 52B is going to be jumping in halfway through a biennium. We need someone who is ready to hit the ground running and deliver a robust bonding bill for the district. I have had the privilege of working at the legislature alongside people with disabilities, passing meaningful legislation, and amplifying others' voices. I've experienced in my professional life and in my personal life on how policies really impact Minnesotans from birth to adulthood. Having experience isn't the only thing that makes a good legislator. We need somebody with a commitment to community and somebody with heart and passion and ready to work hard on behalf of others.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question, and we'll start with Bianca on this one. What is your position on the pro-life issue?
As a mother and somebody who has been in the position of having to make a decision about my reproductive planning, I am very pro-choice. And I had a tumor with my second pregnancy that was growing very rapidly, that at one point we had to decide what are we going to do. And until we had better medical care and understanding, that was an option for us. And then I did have a miscarriage in between my third and my fourth child. So being able to make the family planning decisions that were right for me, for my family, and with the help of my medical provider is essential. So for me, being pro-choice, pro-reproductive justice and healthcare is absolute.
And Cynthia?
Yes. Well, we are lucky here in Minnesota to live in a state where the right to receive abortion care is codified. As I mentioned, we are just one election away from that right being stripped. I am unapologetically pro-choice, as shown by my work on the Pro-Choice Minnesota board. This is work that I am really, really excited to do. And I know that Minnesotans and our community are looking for champions on this issue. So we codified the right, but it does not mean that our work on this issue is done. We need to do everything we can do to ensure equitable access to abortion care for people who are disproportionately unable to receive care. We also need to recruit and retain new providers so that we can continue to be that beacon. This is not just a question about healthcare, but it's a question about equity.
And Jay?
Thank you. Plainly put, I am pro-choice. Long before I started my family with my spouse, Becca, I was pro-choice. I was raised in a house where pro-choice was discussed vehemently. And when I got married and we started to have children, which was a challenge, we required significant medication to make that happen. If we were not living in Minnesota, we may not have the family that we have today. And I'm so thankful for living in a state that values women's bodily autonomy and the right to choose. So without a doubt, for as long as I live, I will continue to be pro-choice. Thank you.
So for the next question, we'll start with Cynthia, then go to Jay, and then Bianca, and here's your question. If you are elected to the 52B seat, what committees do you expect to serve on and why? Cynthia.
Yes. I would hope to serve on the Human Services, both the Finance and Policy Committee. I think that my experience in the current work that I do, I bring a lot of experience to those committees and how to ensure that our medical assistance programs are equitable. I would also hope to serve on the Higher Education Committee. I'm somebody who lives with thousands of dollars of student debt, and I think we need to be taking bold steps to address the student debt crisis here in Minnesota.
Jay?
Thank you. Well, not to sound like a broken record, but I would very much love to be a part of the educational committee, be it the finance portion or just the policy portion. I feel that's right in my wheelhouse as a 24-year veteran in education. Beyond that, I would really enjoy being on the Natural Resources Committee, whether it's the policy or the finance committee on that. That is something I deeply care about, have for a long time and always will. So either one of those options would be my first and second choice, and if I could pick a third, it would be the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Jay. And Bianca.
Yeah, so I hope it's pretty obvious, ed finance or ed policy, right? Or both, I mean, I'd take it all. And I mean, one of the big things that needs to be addressed in this next legislative session is the compensatory aid revenue that kind of came out of universal meals, and there's some challenges there. That is a huge issue. We need to look at LTFM, modernizing the nurse ratio. So I mean, ed, finance, and policy just excites me. The other one would be labor and industry, because I have, working at OSHA and working with the apprenticeship program, the construction codes and licensing, those are areas that I have a lot of experience and understanding, I think could be helpful there. And then finally, the Transportation Committee. We lack representation in Dakota County, and transportation is an issue here. So those are the three that I think would be exciting to work on.
Thank you. So on the next question, the round will be Jay first, then Bianca, and then Cynthia, and here's your question. It's been reported in the news recently that our state has, or is projecting, a revenue surplus of some $2 billion. How would you propose prioritizing the uses of those funds? Jay?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a large chunk of money. I could think of many ways that you could divvy that up. I would start with fully funding education. Early childhood education, as I said at the outset, is the great equalizer in my opinion, and it's well overdue. We need to make sure that we are taking care of the next generation of Minnesotans, because that's an investment in our future. That's an investment in everybody's future. Those are future those are future business owners. Those are future families that are going to be coming here and investing revenue back into our communities. So I would fully fund early education to start. Beyond that, I would make higher ed more affordable as well. And I think that's the way that you bookend fully investing in education. Thank you.
Bianca.
Oh, it's going to sound like a broken record, right? Fully funding education. There's a lot to do there, especially with the special ed cross subsidy. And I mean, there are other ways to fully fund or try to get us to fully funding education, but we do still need an infusion there. And also the child care. So we need to look at some grants, and there could be some funding to help shore up childcare. Childcare is like the lowest paid, one of the lowest paid professions out there. They need support in that. And then, you know, I have heard from several people they would like a tax rebate, or they would like us to look at Social Security, not taxing that. So I think there are some other areas that we could explore as well. Clearly not all of it well, I would love all of it into fully funding education, but we do need to look at more than just that.
Cynthia.
Yes. Well, as I've mentioned before, this next year is a bonding year, and we have a lot of local projects that really need attention. So that would be priority number one. I also think fully funding education, reducing the burden of our local communities off of having to pass levies and referendums to fund education is really, really important. And then investing in our human services system, doing everything we can to ensure that the cost of childcare and healthcare is not a burden on our families, and that people can afford to live in our communities comfortably.
Thank you. So the next question is predicated on a lot of things that we're hearing and seeing and reading about in the news these days. And so I want to get your opinions on that. We'll start with Bianca, and then Cynthia, then Jay. And here's the topic. Would you share with us what your position is on banning books? Bianca.
I have a shirt that says I'm with the band, so if that helps you understand my position on banning books. I am not for banning books. I will go and hold space at libraries. I have done that multiple times. I think there is a system in schools. Okay, first off, in education, as a school board member, you hire the superintendent. That's who you're in charge of, right? They administer the staff. There is a system for what books come into your school and how they get reviewed. So banning books is just, I do not support it, and it's a step in the wrong direction.
Cynthia.
Yes, and I would agree that banning books in our schools is a step in the wrong direction. I have full trust in our educators and our teachers to deliver high quality education and age appropriate materials, and I am completely against the widespread book bans that have been happening across the nation.
And Jay.
Bill, banning books is about the most un-American thing I can think of, period.
Thank you. So the next round, we'll start with Cynthia, then we'll go to Jay and Bianca, and here's the question. As a candidate, you campaign for issues. What are you campaigning against? Cynthia, start us off.
Well, I am campaigning against anything that would take Minnesota backwards with all the wonderful progress that we made last year. Any attacks on LGBTQ rights, any attacks on access to abortion, and any attacks on the robust investments that we made in our paid family medical leave, and against the right-wing extremism that we have seen.
And Jay.
Candidly, I'm against anything that is intolerance, regression, or anti-community. I think as I said at the outset, we are living in interesting times where I never thought in my 47 years here living in the South Metro that I would hear some of the things that I've heard and be concerned about some of the things that I'm now concerned about. I'm worried. I'm an inherently glass is half full person, and I'm hopeful that we can make this happen and free ourselves from the intolerance and from the aggressive policies of the fringe elements here. But that's a real threat, and that's a real threat that we need to address post-haste. Thank you.
And Bianca.
Yeah, I too am really campaigning against that right-wing push that we've seen, especially if you look at the Moms for Liberty candidates running in 196. 197 doesn't have that kind of push there, but we're seeing it really heavily now, second election cycle. I'm campaigning against rolling, like Cynthia said, rolling back the rights and legislation that have passed. I'm really campaigning against limiting the rights of our friends, our LGBTQ+, our BIPOC community. That right-wing extremism, that hate, that is what I'm campaigning against.
Thank you. For this next question, I'll frame it up this way. Since 2020, adults over the age of 65 outnumber school-age children in Minnesota. The Governor's Council on Aging, or on Aging-Friendly Minnesota, recently submitted recommendations to ensure Minnesota is ready for that demographic shift. So my question is this: what steps will you take to ensure all Minnesotans can live independently in communities with access to affordable housing, adequate transportation options, and high-speed internet? And we'll start with you, Jay.
Thank you. Well, I think that conversation starts with creating enough affordable housing. There is a dearth of it right now in the South Metro, and while that 1% Metro sales tax is in part set to address that, only time is going to tell if that will adequately address it. So if it comes to pass that we are not able to create enough affordable housing, that needs to be upped, and needs to be upped in real time. The other portion of that Metro sales tax is an increase in Metro transit, which, if done correctly and if funded appropriately, and again, time will tell with that, we could see a shift in transportation, Metro mobility, things as such that would be able to provide our aging citizens with easy transportation. And if those aren't funded correctly, I'm going to work hard to make sure that we do increase our funding on that.
And Bianca?
Yeah, clearly we need more affordable housing, more transitional housing, and like you said, over the age of 65, right, we're going to need more staff in the healthcare industry, so we need to look at the pathways and feeder systems into those jobs to support that booming demographic. The broadband is an issue now, will be for a long time. We need to invest in that infrastructure. And then transportation, looking at more paratransit, ride-share services. I think there's a lot that we could do, but the affordable housing is a common concern in this district that I've heard from quite a few people, impacting not only our aging population, but our families with disabilities. So that's an area that I think we need to tackle.
Cynthia.
Yes. Well, whether you are a child or a senior in this community, we all deserve a safe place to lay your head at night. And we need to really focus on building generational wealth and building the middle class through home ownership and renting, whether that's through renters tax credits or property tax relief. These will take the burden off of those who rent and own homes. We also need to create a sustained investment in a transportation system. The Metro sales tax was a great start. I think we can do more to expand transit in our community, whether that is fixing our Metro mobility system, expanding bus in the South Metro. I know transportation is a huge concern for a lot of our communities, and we also need to work to expand our work on broadband.
Thank you. What is the most important attribute of an ethical and effective elected official? And we'll start with Bianca, then Cynthia, then Jay.
Sure. I think one of the most important attributes is the ability to work in the middle, the squishy middle. When you're so polarized on one end or the other, you really kind of lose sight as to how to get things done. So working in that squishy middle, trying to find the common ground, hearing from the stakeholders, a lot of the people involved, is one of the best ways to be effective. That ability to, bring the people together. I think a lot of times, even when you look at the far extreme right, we have some of those same concerns, which is transparency, communication. How can we work in that squishy middle to move things forward? It might not be perfect, it might not feel great, but if we can get some progress, you can get more buy-in.
Cynthia.
I think voters really are looking to leaders who are compassionate. As an elected official, individuals come to you with big problems, and they expect you to take action on them. Our voters want somebody who is there and who are compassionate regardless of your ideology. They want somebody who knows the issues facing our community and is compassionate, ready to listen, ready to learn, and ready to work.
And Jay.
Thank you. In a word, it's listening. I believe that everything's going to start with being a good listener, because everything else without the listening skills falls away. If you aren't listening to what's being said to you, whether it's the loudest voice in the room or the quietest voice in the room, it's hard to work with both sides. You have to be able to listen, to hear and tease out what the issue is and what the person is saying. They may start with a very surface level comment, but taking the time to really listen to people and have an understanding of where they're coming from, their perspective, their background, their life experience, that's going to set the foundation for everything else that you're going to do going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. So our next question is this. What is your position on enacting and enforcing more rigorous and more effective regulation of firearms? We start with Cynthia.
Well, I am proud to be a Moms Demand Gun Sense candidate in this race. I also want to start by recognizing the recent tragedy that occurred in Maine. Nobody should be afraid to go bowling. Nobody should be afraid to go to school. And that's something that our community is really facing. I believe that we should continue our work that we did last session and work to pass safe storage law and assault ban weapons. This is work that is common sense, and it's centered around making our community safer.
Jay?
Thank you. I think we need to continue to build upon our common sense gun laws, because if you were to poll the vast majority of the people, not only living in the metro, but all across the state of Minnesota, and I would argue across the country, you're going to find that people want common sense gun laws. There are very few people in this country that want to deregulate guns. We need to start listening to the vast majority of the voices in the room and start making common sense gun laws that are going to work for everybody, so that you don't have to be scared when you decide that you want to take your family bowling, or to go to a movie theater, or go to a music venue. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bianca?
Yeah, I too am a Moms Demand Action designation, and I'm also an avid hunter, an avid gun owner, and I fully support responsible gun safety regulations. Stronger handgun purchasing, licensing laws. as a school board candidate, it's one of the things that I get written about a lot. Hey, we need more doors, we need more walls. Okay, these are weapons of war. An AR-15 isn't gonna be stopped by a dirt wall or a sheetrock wall. We need more, and I hear that on the doors. Not only do I hear that on the doors, but I grew up in a right-wing, conservative, Second Amendment household. My dad was a gun dealer, and a few years ago he said, we need to start some gun regulation. People shouldn't have these guns, and I was like, thank you, thank you. He's not the only one. We are seeing it more and more. It is something we need to do more about.
Thank you. So for our next question, each of you considering your own unique circumstances, and considering how active you are with your careers, with your family and other organizations in the communities, how do you see yourself having adequate time in your schedule to attend fully to the responsibilities that inure to being an elected representative? We'll start with Jay.
Thank you. That's a great question. Well, my dad raised me with a couple of different rules in life, and one of them was you don't quit a job until you have a new one. And I will tell you, I am an individual that has several jobs. As I mentioned at the outset, I'm a 24-year veteran special education teacher. I'm a 15-year veteran of the fire service, and I'm a 2-term city council member. In addition to that, I'm the very proud father of 3 young children, and I also coach high school athletics. But I'm also a realist, and I understand that this job is going to take time and dedication. So I will do, should I be awarded this opportunity, what I always do when a new opportunity rises. There will be a very serious sit down where I look in the mirror and I will ask myself, what needs to be readjusted? Where can I make space to make this happen? And I will do that with a steady hand and a calm mind. Thank you.
Bianca.
So I think the saying is, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And I think that's why people reached out and asked me to run. I am a mother of 3. I work full time. I'm on the school board with the 4 committees. I'm on 4 committees. I serve on the PTO. A lot of that would then change, right? I wouldn't be doing that, so I can focus that time and energy here. And I'm also really fortunate to have a very, very supportive husband and family. And without them, I wouldn't be able to take on additional responsibilities like the COVID coordinator during the pandemic, like setting up Lego League, like joining or participating in the Humphrey Policy Fellowship. So for me, I'm fortunate to have a really great supportive family and an employer that is willing to have flexibility and autonomy in my scheduling. It really does take a village, and it doesn't happen overnight. So, yeah.
And Cynthia.
Well, one thing about me is when I decide to do something, I give it my all. So when I decided to run, I knew that this was a commitment, and this campaign is probably, I would say all of us agree, the longest job interview we've ever had. And I have the pleasure of currently working in and around the legislature at the nonprofit that I work at, so I know the time commitment. I've been a legislative staffer in the past. I know that this is a big job, and I know this is a job that I am ready for. And it is a job that, if elected, I will give 110% to.
In the next round, we'll start with Bianca, then Cynthia, and then Jay. And the question is, what is your position on more affordable health care for all Minnesotans? And Bianca, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I think we need more affordable health care. I've been pretty open. I pay $2,500 a month for my health insurance, for family insurance with a high deductible. That's a big pill to swallow. It's more than our mortgage. I think there are some ways that we could berate some of the work that we do to provide more affordable health care, and that includes accessing services in schools. So, for example, accessing services in schools and billing Medicaid for it. It could also include school-based health services, wraparound services, looking at the drug prices, negotiating better prescription drug prices, having more mobile clinics where we can meet people where they're at, and then investing in local public health more.
And Cynthia.
Well, healthcare is a human right. As simple as that. No Minnesotan or American should be afraid to go to the doctor because they can't afford their bill. I currently work in the healthcare system. This is something I know in and out, and I'm in favor of all strategies to increase the transparency and reduce costs in our healthcare system, whether that be expanding Minnesota Care or moving to a single payer system. I know that this is work that Minnesotans are expecting their elected official to do, and it's going to take a lot of work, but this investment is essential.
And Jay.
Yeah, thank you. I would be absolutely in favor of a single payer system. I do believe we do need to expand this. Minnesota is a state that values a lot of things, of which is healthcare, and you don't need to look any further down to the University of Minnesota Medical School, the Mayo Clinic, as evidence of that. Right now in ISD 197, the district that I teach in, we are expanding our nurse service care to be able to provide those types of services not only to our students but their families, and it's coming online very shortly here, and I'm excited at that opportunity. But to that end, I do think we need to go and expand beyond that, because to Cynthia's point, it is a right. Healthcare is a right, and if we truly value our residents here, we should be taking care of them collectively. Thank you.
Next question. How do you stay tuned on the issues and concerns of constituents in 52B? Cynthia, we'll start with you.
Great. Well, I live in this community. I've spent my life being uplifted by this community. This work is something you have to put the center, people's voices at the center of everything you do. And the way that you do that is having authentic conversations, actively reaching out, paying attention to what's happening, showing up to meetings, showing up on behalf of people. And that's how any effective legislator will stay up to date on what's happening in their community.
And Jay?
Yeah, it's a two-pronged approach. As I had said earlier, I think listening is the #1 skill needed for this job, because if you're not truly listening to the people, you're not going to have a good sense of where they're coming from, where their needs are, where their desires are. Beyond the listening capacity, I think you need to be present. Not only physically present, but mentally present and emotionally present. That does mean showing up to meetings, that does mean showing up to events. But when you're there, you are actively engaged in that listening process, and you are part of that discussion. And it goes well beyond the confines of a 10-minute visit or a 15-minute visit. It is all-encompassing, and it's showing empathy and showing that you want what's best for the residents of 52B, as well as to expand that out even further, the great state of Minnesota.
And Bianca.
Yeah, so I'm on a lot of different committees, whether as a school board member or in my day job, and I get to hear from parents, I get to hear from students, I get to hear from our educators, but I also have been door knocking for my local legislators for years as a school board member. EAGAN brings out the vote. You know, for the last 2 years, I've been connecting with them a lot. And then I do attend the town halls and conversations with the legislators who are adjacent to us as well. So you get to hear from whether it's John Hewitt or Aaron McQuaid or Bierman, you know, talking with Matt Klein, Jim Carlson, going to the Senate district events where people, you get to hear what their concerns are, the coffee and conversations. And then I also, in my day job, get to hear about the impacts across the state. So what's happening in Rocori or Lake of the Woods. So I get out there in a lot of different ways.
Thank you. So now here's our final question, and then we'll get to the wrap up. So your final question. If you could ask a question, but you can't, what would you ask the other candidates on the panel? And we'll start with Jay.
That's a very interesting question. You know, I think my question would be, how's everybody doing? Because this is such a different election cycle than what normally takes place. And I've had my fair share of election cycles. I'm a 2-term city council member for the city of Mendota Heights, and it's a different animal. So how are you doing?
Thank you. And Cynthia, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, I think I would ask, you know, this is a short election. We are all running because we believe we're the best for our community, and we're lucky to live in a community where so many great people step forward. So I want to ask, how can we best work together despite what happens at the end of this election? How do we work together as leaders in our community to deliver for this community?
Bianca.
What are you doing November 17th? You know, like to that effect,
Yeah.
right? Like what's your plan, and how can we collaborate together, because we do represent kind of different perspectives but we have very similar beliefs, right? We have shared values. So what are you doing on the 17th?
Well, let's go into the final closing statements, and as we said, we'll go in reverse order from the introductions. And so, Jay, that would make you going first, Cynthia second, and then Bianca. So, Jay, your closing comments, please.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight. And what I would say in my closing comments is this. I've spent my entire life serving our communities. As I said at the outset, I've taught most of your kids, or I've coached them. I've been a 24-year proud union member and special education teacher at Two Rivers High School. I've helped your family potentially through fire hazards and other rescue opportunities on my 15-year experience on the Mendota Heights Fire Department. And I've served you as a 2-term city council member in the city of Mendota Heights. And I will tell you, in all of those moments and opportunities that I've had to meet all of you, I've gained a unique experience and insight into how our communities tick. And which was possibly said a few seconds ago here, in that we all have very similar crossovers, and what you need to know is the individual that's going to take this seat, I would hope that you would want with experience and leadership skills, and I feel that I have those leadership skills and those experiences that have awarded me success in my other careers, and I look forward to the opportunity to lead 52B going forward. Thank you.
Cynthia.
Yes. Well, I want to thank Alan and you, Bill, and I also want to thank the other candidates for joining. I've really enjoyed talking about the issues facing our community, and I know that we have a lot of important work ahead of us. I'm ready to fight for equitable abortion access, and I know that it is time that we invest in our world-class public education system. And I know that we need to elect leaders to address the climate crisis in front of us. I believe I'm the best candidate going forward because I will take the voices of our community and center them at every step of the way along the Capitol. I have worked to pass legislation alongside others, and I'm ready to push for a progressive future and address the problems of our next generation. It'd be an honor of a lifetime to represent EAGAN, Mendota, and Mendota Heights at the state legislature. And I guess I will invite all the viewers to visit CallaiForMinnesota.com if they want to learn more. And I want to thank everybody for watching and joining tonight.
And Bianca.
Yeah, yes, thank you all. Thank you for hosting. Thank you both for being here. I'm really passionate, I work really hard, and I've gotten a lot of the support from the community. I've proven I can win in this district. Not only win, but I beat out 3 Moms for Liberty candidates 2 years ago. I have an extraordinary team who's working really hard. There's a lot of support from the community. It's been amazing. We're door knocking. We're working these connections that we have throughout 52B. It's really about bringing this back to the people of EAGAN, Mendota, and Mendota Heights. And for many of you out there, you voted for me once. I earned your vote 2 years ago, and then I asked that you vote for me again on November 16th. But not only vote on November 16th, but show up for your levy and your school board candidates in 197 on November 7th, and also for the 196 school board candidates on November 7th. There's lots of opportunities to engage. You can vote on the 7th, the 16th, and then in the general on December 5th. So, thank you. And also, yeah, go to biancavirnig.com to learn more.
Well, this has been a vibrant and engaging forum and an excellent opportunity for our viewers to learn more about their options for the DFL candidate for the special election coming up on December 5th. So thank you for your interest in being a public servant, and thank you for your time and your participation in the forum this evening. In closing, a reminder once again that the recording of this DFL special election primary forum will be available for viewing on our website, accesstodemocracy.com, and on YouTube, and will also be broadcast on EAGAN TV on the following dates: November 2nd at 7 p.m., November 7 at 10 a.m., and November 10th at 8 p.m. On the day following the DFL primary, November 17th, at 4 p.m., we will present another forum that will feature the victor in the DFL primary election and all the other announced candidates. That forum will be rebroadcast several times before the December 5th special election, and we'll announce the specific dates and times for that rebroadcast during that forum. Thanks again to our producer and timekeeper, Alan Miller, and to the EAGAN TV crew, without whom we could not have brought you this program. And join us again for the next candidate forum on November 17th, when our special will be announcing the candidates in the special December 5th election. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to vote in the DFL primary and in the December 5th special election for District 52B.